Hey there, welcome everybody to the Week 14 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined by good old MF Michael Fletcher. We are maybe awaiting the presence of Michael Bullock. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we will hopefully have him back with us tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk. Week 14 of the NFL season started last night with the game of the week. Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime Video, the Green Bay Packers squaring off against the Detroit Lions, Ford Field in Detroit, and the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions, what a game it was. But at the end of the day, it was the Detroit Lions. They got it done. The Detroit Lions defeating the Green Bay Packers by a final score of 34-31 on a walk-off 35-yard field goal by Jake Bates to end the night. For the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, 32 of 41, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he did throw an interception. David Montgomery, 14 carries, 51 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs with 43 yards rushing right behind him. Tim Patrick, two receiving touchdowns, 6 catches, 43 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs had a receiving touchdown, 6 catches for 30 yards. Jamison Williams led the way with 80 yards receiving. The defense, Zadarius Smith had a sack, and that was the only notable defensive highlight for the Detroit Lions. In defeat, the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, 12 of 20, 206 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. Josh Jacobs, 18 carries, 66 yards, 3 touchdowns on the night. Christian Watson, 4 catches for 114 yards. Tucker Kraft had the receiving touchdown to go with 3 catches and 41 yards. It was Nixon who had the interception of Jared Goff, and it was Gary who had the sack with 1 sack, and those are the schematics and the numbers from that. Both teams with tough games next week. The Green Bay Packers, another tough game for them. They got to go on the road for Sunday Night Football next Sunday night against the Seattle Seahawks from Lumen Field in Seattle. And, of course, for the Detroit Lions, we know what their next game is. Oh, do we know what their next game is? A game that could be a Super Bowl preview. It's got Game of the Year potential. I could even go as far as to say it has a potential to be the game of the century, a rare game of the century in the NFL. When the Detroit Lions square off against my Buffalo Bills. Oh, by the way, there's our game next week. Oh, by the way. So, Lions improved to 12-1. They have won 11 in a row. Whereas the Packers, they dropped to 9-4. And Detroit definitely still holds on to their slim lead for that number 1 seed in the NFC. The biggest, they do have a couple of threats, and those couple of threats are not only their division rivals, the Minnesota Vikings, but their biggest threat, as far as I'm concerned, is the Philadelphia Eagles. And they got them breathing down their necks when it comes to that number 1 seed. But for right now, the Lions are in. They are in the playoffs right now. The first team to clinch on the NFC side. We got 2 teams in on the AFC side. Those 2 teams being the Kansas City Chiefs and, of course, my Buffalo Bills as well. So, and, of course, starting tonight and the rest of the way, certain games will have clinching scenarios. And that's where good old MF Michael Fletcher will come in, because you know how MF is always on top of the scenarios. So I know he's going to have the scenarios. And we're also going to add for certain games something called What's at Stake. Certain games will have it, other games will not, but we will have What's at Stake. Probably starting this week and going the rest of the way. So big things coming here on our NFL show for this stretch run of the regular season. 5 weeks left to go before we get to the postseason. So yes, great win for the Lions. they're still on track for that number 1 seed in the NFC. The biggest threat right now, Philly. They got them breathing down their necks. We'll get to Philly in a little bit. So Green Bay, on the other hand, well, this definitely puts a dent in their playoff hopes, but I think they're still in a good position. I believe they're still one of the wild card teams in the NFC right now, and I think they have a good chance to get that one of those wild card spots. So, but they got to go to Seattle next week. That is going to be that is not easy. Let me tell you. But Detroit, they got it a lot tougher. Yes, they're at home, but they got Buffalo coming in, and that game could be well significant as to who could possibly be raising the Lombardi Trophy 2 months from now at the Superdome in New Orleans. Man, I cannot wait for that game next week. I'm already chomping at the bit. So, but we have other games to get into this week. Of course, Buffalo's got they got a game of their own, trap game. Oh, do they have a trap game and then some? But we'll get into that as part of this show here tonight. So, great game, lived up to the hype and then some. That game was worthy of being the game of the week. Abso-freaking-lutely. Buffalo and Detroit will have a tough act to follow next week. So, but we'll see. So not much more to say here. So good old MF Michael Fletcher, come on in. 34-31, the Detroit Lions defeat the Green Bay Packers. A Thursday night football game of the week, lived up to the hype and then some. Detroit 12-1, Green Bay 9-4. Green Bay's got to go to Seattle for Sunday night football next week, whereas Detroit will be staying at home and welcoming Buffalo in what could be our game of the year next week.
Yeah. To call it a game of the century, I wouldn't call it that. However, it is the game of the season. This is the biggest game of the season. This is going to be a big showdown. Buffalo versus Detroit. Many people's calling it maybe a Super Bowl preview. Many people are calling it the Super Bowl preview and one YouTuber and one social media person actually calls it the America's Super Bowl matchup. This is the one that America wants to see more than anything else. So maybe, you don't know. But if that's the matchup, that could be a record-breaking Super Bowl. You don't know, but yeah, Detroit played a great game. Give it up to Green Bay. They hung tough. Could have won it, but they didn't. And yeah, props to Detroit for winning it, and more importantly, getting that big win to move on. So nothing more to say, Anthony. Yeah, it was an incredible game, an incredible Thursday nighter, and yeah, back to you.
And before we move on, the only reason why I referenced it as a possible game of the century is because of the fact that I've seen a lot of the experts' power rankings, and a lot of the power rankings have Detroit Buffalo 1-2. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, I get it, but I mean, you could I would say you could make an argument that if you're calling game of the century level, you can call Philly versus Kansas City a game of the century level. You can call Kansas City Detroit game of the century level. Philly and Buffalo game of the century level. Right now, those are the four teams right now that are the best of the best. Those are your four, and then there's everybody else.
So you've got Buffalo, Detroit, Kansas City, and Philly as the top four right now.
Yes.
Fair enough. I
don't even think there's a debate.
No.
On who would even be a threat other than those four. I'm gonna make a bold prediction right now. The Super Bowl champions coming out of those four. Either Philly, Buffalo, Detroit, or KC's walking out with the trophy this year. I don't see no other team. And I'm really being dead serious about this. I do not see any other team as a threat to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't.
Okay. Fair enough. So, I just needed some a little extra to get ready here. I believe we've got everything all set up now. So the last order of business, of course, for the final time this season, this is the last bye week of the season here. So we got a light docket this week, and it's because of the fact that these 6 teams are on bye for this upcoming week. The Baltimore Ravens, the Denver Broncos, the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, Michael Bullock's New England Patriots, and the Washington Commanders. You will not see them this week. Kind of feel bad for Bullock because, it's his birthday this weekend and his team's not playing. Well, that's all right.
Maybe that is a good thing.
Yeah, with all due respect. So,
with all due respect, but maybe it is a good thing that they got the bye week.
Oh yeah. But anyways, here we go. Now we're gonna get into the action here. The first game of the Sunday docket in the early window. This game comes in as our number 5 game of the week on our side of the ledger. AFC East division matchup. The New York Jets squaring off against MF's Miami Dolphins. Hard Rock Stadium, Miami, Florida. And MF, you're going to be very happy when I tell you this, because or maybe then again, maybe you already know, but your good luck charm, Kevin Harlan, is going to be on the call for this game. So Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins, they will be in Miami. Miami opening up as a 6-point favorite. First meeting of the season, Miami leads the all-time regular season series 59-56 with a tie. Dolphins have won 3 straight against the Jets, including a 30-0 beatdown in Miami last year. And the Dolphins have actually done pretty good against the Jets at home as of late. The last time that the Jets beat the Dolphins with the Dolphins as the home team, that game was in London back in 2015. It was a London game. 27-14, Jets won in London 2015. The last time the Jets won in Miami, you got to go back to 2014. And that was a 37-24 win. But every year since 2016, the Miami Dolphins have beaten the New York Jets at home. So not much more to say. MF, our number 5 game of the week, the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins at the Hard Rock, kicking off the Sunday action. Your thoughts? Well, actually, no. My apologies. I'm just so excited about what's coming up here. Oh my God. Oh God Almighty. Oh, I can't help it. I'm excited. So this is my favorite time of the year when it comes to football, not just NFL but college too. So because I got that playoff fever, man. I'm telling you, I got the playoff fever. Okay, now let's get into this. Okay. Of course, as we all know, first meeting, believe it or not, and Aaron Rodgers and company still are looking for their first 30-point game. The last time the Jets went this far into the season without scoring 30 in a game was in 2020, when they finished 2-14 with 0 30-point games. But history says it won't happen this week. The offense has scored only 3 touchdowns in their last 6 trips to Miami. The Jets' last 30-point performance in Miami was 2014, which was also their last win in Miami. After last week's loss to the Green Bay Packers, the Miami Dolphins probably need to win out to keep their remote playoff hopes alive. Luckily for them, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa has never lost to the Jets. The Dolphins' lone loss to New York since 2020 came in 2022 when Tagovailoa was injured. Sunday's game could also be a bounce-back opportunity for our Miami run game that has averaged 63.3 yards a game over the last 4 weeks. The Jets' defense has allowed more than 107.3 rushing yards a game in that same span. Aaron Rodgers now has 34 consecutive starts with fewer than 300 passing yards. No other quarterback has an active streak of at least 20 starts. And here's our first what's at stake here. The Dolphins' chances at the playoffs will increase to only 13.8% with a win, but drop to 2.3% with a loss, independent of other results, per ESPN analytics. The Jets would be eliminated from the playoffs with a loss. FPI gives it to Miami, 57%, going with the Miami Dolphins. I'm going with the Miami Dolphins to win this game as well. My final score, 24-20. The Miami Dolphins defeat the New York Jets on Sunday and keep their slim playoff hopes alive, while the Jets' playoff hopes will be, well, DOA. So not much more to say on that. So, MF, now we go to you now. The Jets, the Dolphins, kicking off the Sunday slate. And you heard what I said. Miami basically has to win out to have any chance of making it.
Yeah, they would have to win out. The schedule does get a little trickier. There are winnable games. This is one of them. You just got to handle your business. Miami let one get away last week against Green Bay. Yes, I get it, the cold and everything else. But if you really think about it, Tua Tagovailoa was not responsible for that loss. He actually had one of his best games in the cold. 370 yards passing, had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he was relatively clean. Unfortunately, the O-line did not help. Had to sacked 4 to 5 times in the game, and defensively they just did not help at all. So I think that's going to be a cleanup. That should be fine. Miami should be able to win it, and I think they will win it. So I got nothing more to add. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, MF, and you'll be leading off on our next matchup. One of the big games on the other side of the ledger. This is the number 3 game of the week on the other side of the ledger, on the NFC side. As this will be on Fox, and it will feature the Atlanta Falcons squaring off against the Minnesota Vikings, US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. And on the call for this game, I do believe it's Joe Davis's crew that's going to be working this one. Yes, it is. It'll be Joe Davis, Greg Olson, and Pam Oliver. Minnesota opening up as a 5.5-point favorite. Minnesota leads the all-time regular season series 20-11. They met last year in Atlanta. Minnesota won a wild one, 31-28. Last meeting in Minnesota was 2020. Atlanta won that one, 40-23. And Minnesota's last home win against Atlanta was 2019, 28-12, the final. This is the number 3 game on the NFC side. And MF, we got one major storyline in this one. Kirk Cousins returns to Minnesota for the first time in a visitor's uniform with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes, indeed. And if you're the Minnesota Vikings, you have a shot to make the playoffs. The clinching scenario, Anthony, for the first time tonight, Minnesota must win. And coupled with an Arizona Cardinal loss and a Los Angeles Ram loss, if that happens, Minnesota is going dancing. They will be in the postseason. They will be in the playoffs. So that will be a clinch. Yeah. I look, Kirk Cousins is going to be playing. He's going to try to play his best game ever, knowing what's at stake, and to try to prevent Minnesota from going to the playoffs as well. But I kind of feel like Minnesota is going to win this one. I just feel like they're going to want to get this out of the way and to clinch the spot. So give me the Vikings to win it. Anthony, it's yours.
All right. This actual, well, some could say this could be a better game than the one than America's Game of the Week on Fox. The records are the same. Minnesota 10-2, Atlanta 6-6, but Buffalo has already won the AFC East, thanks to the Dolphins being second at just 5-7, while the Vikings are fighting to stay alive in the NFC North race. They're about a game and a half behind Detroit and jockeying for playoff position. And the Falcons are tied with the Buccaneers for the NFC South lead. So they've got a lot of pressure to play well too. The Vikings are just 5.5-point home favorites, so this could be close. For Minnesota, Sam Darnold remains a key question. He was reasonably efficient in a 23-22 win over Arizona last week, completing 68% of his passes with 2 touchdown passes and no interceptions. But the 235 passing yards he put up were his lowest since October 6th. but he's coming in off a better game than Atlanta's Kirk Cousins, who threw 4 interceptions in a 17-13 loss at home to the LA Chargers. We'll see which quarterback puts up a better showing here. Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins coming off perhaps the worst 3-game stretch of his 13-year career, going into a road game against his former team. The pressure is certainly on, given the Falcons' 3-game losing streak has cost them their once commanding NFC South Division lead. Cousins has 6 interceptions in the last 3 games, and the Vikings lead the league in that category with 18. Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold's past 3 games have been his best of the season, with a combined 811 yards, 7 total touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. His performance will be on center stage Sunday as he is playing at a notably higher level than his predecessor, Cousins, and with a $10 million contract that is a fraction of the Falcons quarterback's deal. Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell says Darnold is playing with almost a surgical level of doing my job and not trying to do too much, but also knowing that my job might be to try to put a ball in a tight window here and there. Cousins is the first quarterback with 0 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions in a 6-game span since Brian Hoyer did this with the Cleveland Browns in 2014. What's at stake? Well, according to ESPN Analytics, the Falcons have the highest chance at the NFC's 4th seed at 30%, and the Vikings have the highest chance at the 5th seed at 49%. The FPI favors Minnesota, 63% going with Minnesota, and I'm going to go with Minnesota to win as well. My final score, I'm going to say 38-27. Minnesota defeats Atlanta. So not much more to say there. We move on to our next matchup. And this is when it comes to the other side of the ledger, this is their zonk game of the week. No question about it. The New Orleans Saints squaring off against the New York Giants, MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey, in the Meadowlands. And on the call for Fox will be Kevin Kugler, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Laura Oakman. New Orleans opening up as a 5-point favorite. And the series history favors the New York Giants 17-15. Their last meeting was last year in New Orleans, where the Saints won 24-6. Last meeting in New York was 2018. New Orleans won 33-18. The Giants' last home win against the Saints was 2016 when they won 16-13. So let's get into the Saints and the Giants. With Taysom Hill out for the season with a torn ACL, the Saints are now without 3 offensive players who are responsible for 11 touchdowns. Hill, running back Rashid Shaheed with a knee, and wide receiver Chris Olave with a concussion. That means they will likely continue to lead on receivers Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Kevin Austin Jr., 2 players the team has leaned on in the last 3 games under interim coach Darren Rizzi. The Saints are getting healthier in other ways, though, with running back Kendre Miller and wide receiver Bub Means returning to practice. The Giants are trying to snap a 7-game skid and will do so with Drew Lock at starting at quarterback. Coach Brian Daboll said he's going with Lock because he did some good things against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and they want to see what he can do with a full week of preparation. He'll get a chance against New Orleans' defense, which ranks 29th in passing yards a game at 249. Saints quarterback Derek Carr has a 6-0 touchdown to interception ratio since returning in week 9 from an oblique injury. That is the most passing touchdowns without an interception by any quarterback in that span. Believe it or not, there is something at stake here, but it's not playoffs. We're talking about draft positioning. As it stands, the Giants have a 31% chance to earn the number 1 draft pick in 2025, which is the highest by any team in the league per ESPN Analytics. That figure will jump to 42% with a loss to the Saints and would fall to 10% with a win. The FPI gives it to New Orleans, 65% going with the New Orleans Saints, and I'm going with the New Orleans Saints to win this game as well. I'm going to say 27-20, my final score. So give me New Orleans 27-20 to defeat the Giants. So not much more to say. MF, Saints and the Giants, no playoff implications for this one. So your thoughts on the Saints and Giants, the zonk game of the week on their side of the ledger? MF, are you there? Okay. I am awaiting for MF to come back in and join us here. He probably had to step away for just a moment. So but yeah, like I said, I got New Orleans winning this one. My final score is going to be 27-20, and the Giants they hung with Dallas on Thanksgiving, and like I said, that game was far more entertaining than it had any right to be, in all honesty. And the Giants, they hung with the Cowboys, they really did, but just came up a little bit short. The Saints, on the other hand, they're starting to somewhat starting to get their mojo back, even though they did lose at home to the Rams last week. And, Derek Carr has been playing better ever since he came back from that injury. So, we're just going to have to keep an eye out and see if he can keep this up. And of course, there's no playoff implications in this one, just, draft positioning. And the Giants right now currently are the front runners for that elusive number one draft pick. So we'll just keep an eye on that. And that's all I can say on that. So 27-20, I got New Orleans winning. So we will await for MF to rejoin us here, and then we'll get his thoughts on it, and then we'll head on to our next matchup as part of the early afternoon window of week number 14. So, MF, when you're back in, just let me. Oh, okay, there he is. Okay.
I apologize, man. I had to deal with something that was a little bit beyond my control. I do know it was Giants and what?
Saints? The Saints and the Giants.
All right. I'm going with New Orleans. I don't really need to run any details. If you guys saw how the Giants played against the Cowboys, I rest my case.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So with that being said, MF, you'll be leading off on our next matchup. Another game of the week. Another game on game on Fox. This is the game before the Zonk, if you will. We got the Carolina Panthers squaring off against the Philadelphia Eagles, Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. And it'll be Adam Amin, Mark Sanchez, and Christina Pink on the call for Fox. And Philadelphia opening up as a 13.5 point favorite.
No big surprise.
13.5 for Philly. Absolutely. Philadelphia leads the regular season series 8-4. Their last meeting was 2021 in Charlotte. Eagles won 21-18. Last meeting in Philadelphia, though, was 2018, and Carolina actually won that one, 21-17. Philly's last home win over Carolina was 2014, 45-21. All right, MF, you just said it a minute ago. One of your top four teams, one of your top four Super Bowl favorites, the Philadelphia Eagles, and they've got the Carolina Panthers coming in, opening up as 2 touchdown favorites. Saquon Barkley at another level right now.
Saquon Barkley, you can even make an argument, could be the MVP of the league. Like, that's how good he's been lately. And for Philly, listen up, y'all. You guys can make the playoffs this week, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4 possible scenarios. You might want to get a pen and a paper because it's a lot. And I mean, it is a lot. So, because there's combinations here, so get ready. So, first scenario would be a win, and you would need 3 teams to lose in this particular order: the Falcons, the Cardinals, and the Packers. If that scenario happens, Philly, you're in. Scenario number 2, does another combination: an Eagle win followed by a Falcons, Cardinals, and Rams loss. That gets you through. The third scenario has a combination of an Eagle win plus losses by the Buccaneers, the Cardinals, and the Packers. And the fourth possible scenario would be a win and a loss by Atlanta, Arizona, and the Los Angeles Rams. So those are your four possible scenarios. But if you notice, there you need a combination of practically 5 teams to lose. Atlanta, Arizona, Green Bay, who was already lost, so check mark on one. Tampa and LA. So pick your poison. If 3 of those 5 teams loses and you win, you're in the playoffs, Philadelphia. And I believe you will win this game. Like I said, you're one of the 4 that I think is going to win the Super Bowl when this is all said and done. So give me Philadelphia to win it. Florio, it's yours.
All right. Okay. The Eagles. The Eagles have NFL rushing leader Saquon Barkley, who is averaging almost 125 yards a game. I apologize. This thing refreshed on me. All right. The Eagles have NFL rushing leader Saquon Barkley, who is averaging almost 125 yards a game. The Panthers are allowing a league worst 160 rushing yards a game, including 236 against Tampa Bay last week. That's pretty much all you need to know. Aside from the fact that Panthers quarterback Bryce Young is playing better, passing for 263 plus yards in each of his last 2 games, and he has not had an interception in 3 straight games. Philadelphia's defense has been playing at an elite clip since its Week 5 bye. The Eagles are first in points allowed, 13.4 a game, yards per play, 4.1, sacks with 30, and 15 forced fumbles from Week 6 on. They will face a Carolina offense that ranks 30th in both yards at 292 and points a game at 18. With a loss, Bryce Young would be the 4th quarterback since 2000 to lose 20 of his first 25 career starts, joining Blaine Gabbert from 2011 to 13, Justin Fields from 21 to 22, and Trevor Lawrence from 21 to 22, who all started 5-20. What's at stake? Well, the Panthers will be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss, marking their 7th straight season without a playoff appearance, which would be the longest drought in franchise history. And Philadelphia is the biggest FPI favorite of the week, 86%. You heard me right, 86%. The FPI for Philadelphia. And I am going with Philadelphia to win this game as well. But I think but considering how better Carolina's been playing, I wouldn't be surprised if they hang with Philly. But I do have Philly winning, though. My final score is going to be 28-24. We got Michael Bullock here. So Bullock, come on in. We're going to get you caught up here. Just, first off, give us a quick thought of last night's wild and crazy Thursday night football game with the Packers and the Lions, with the Lions winning 34-31 on a walk-off 35-yard field goal by Jake Bates.
Well, I expected this to be a real close game, and that's what we got here. And I'll tell you what, you got to give the Packers credit. They hung in there. They hung in there with them and gave this team, this Lions team, fits. And I thought for sure they were going to end the win streak, but the Lions found a way and got the victory. So yeah, definitely a good game. I mean, it's an unbelievable start for this Lions team, and this is why I feel, in my opinion, and I don't know about you, Florio, I think they should be the favorites to win it all. I mean, look at this. I mean, they've lost some key guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially Aiden Hutchinson. And you're thinking this team's going to take a little bit of a hit, but it seems like they haven't lost a step. It's almost like, hey, take your time, Aiden, and if you do get back, and that's the thing, if they get him back for the Super Bowl, should they get there? Oh boy, that's going to be a big help for them, bud. And what's the theme this year, Florio, for this Lions team?
Finishing the story.
Exactly, because I thought for sure they were going to beat the Niners in the NFC title game.
They were well on their way to doing so.
Yeah, and that's why I think this year it's unfinished business for this team. And in my heart of hearts, I think they can do it, but we'll wait and see. But I'll tell you what, if they meet up with the Packers again, especially come playoff time, I expect another game like this. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. So a big win for the Lions, but the Packers show they can hang around with these boys.
Oh, they certainly can. And with that, let's get you caught up on the games we've talked about already. We've done 4 of them already. First up was our number 5 game of the week, the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins to win this one.
The Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins returns to Minnesota in a visitor's uniform.
Yeah, but I like what I've seen from this Minnesota team, and Sam Darnold continues to impress me. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win this one.
The New Orleans Giants, one of the Zonk games of the week.
Oh, you said Saints and Giants, right?
Yeah, the Saints and the Giants.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints.
In the game that MF and I just talked about, the Carolina Panthers and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I got a feeling this ain't going to be close.
All right. So you're all caught up. So with that, we're going to move on. And before we do, some breaking news from the world of college football. Army has won the American Athletic Conference Championship. They smashed Tulane 35-14 at Meechee Stadium. And we got a stampede with the Army cadets. They're doing a stampede right now. What a scene!
Yeah, the cadets have stormed the field, and they're going beside themselves right now. But I hope they can save their energy, because you know what? That is great that they got the victory. It's great that they get this moment. But guys, get ready. Next week, you got Navy. Enjoy it tonight. Enjoy it tonight, boys. But remember, next week, America's game.
And right here on TXN Sports World NFL Friday, we are going to have a special preview of that game next week. So,
oh yeah.
Matter of fact, that's going to be we're gonna talk about that game before we get into the NFL games of next week. So you do not want to miss that. So yes, Army has won the American Athletic Conference, smashing Tulane 35-14.
And right now, I just want to give a quick update, Anthony. About 2 minutes left, and Boise State, it looks like they are on the verge of making it to the playoffs. They're up 21-7 as of right now. 2 minutes left in the game.
Yes, sir. They've just reached the 2-minute warning on the Smurf turf at Albertson Stadium. So behind another big game from Ashton Gianti. Yeah. Wow, what a surprise, huh? So, man, I cannot wait to see that kid in the playoffs. Oh, my God, that is going to be – if you haven't seen that kid play, let me tell you, you are going to be in for a real treat. I'm telling you. I've seen this kid for several games already, including tonight. He continues to blow my mind. He is unbelievable. Wait till he gets to the NFL, and whoever ends up getting him, oh, good luck trying to contain this kid. Oh, he's unstoppable, man. All right. So with that being said, we're all caught up now, and let's move on to our next game. This is our number 4 game of the week on our side of the ledger. AFC North Division matchup. second meeting already, as it will feature the Cleveland Browns squaring off against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Acrisure Stadium, formerly Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. And believe it or not, hello, friends, Jim Nance, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson will be on the call for this game. Second meeting already. We all remember what happened the last time they met. A couple of weeks ago, Thursday Night Football, in a winter snowstorm at Cleveland Browns Stadium, the Cleveland Browns did the unthinkable and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And because of that, the series history is still one-sided. It's now 79-63 with one tie in favor of Pittsburgh. Last year in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh won 26-22. The last time the Browns won in Pittsburgh was that AFC wildcard playoff game, January of 2021. Cleveland won that one. Wild game, 48-37. Their last regular season win in Pittsburgh, you got to go all the way back to 2003 when they beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh on a Sunday Night Football game, October of 2003. I remember it like it was yesterday. So not much more to say on this. So let me reset the rotation here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. I believe, you know what? We're just gonna run with this. MF, I believe, had the last one. So Michael Bullock, we're gonna have you lead off on this one. The Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh, our number 4 game of the week, and Pittsburgh looking for revenge on the Browns after the Browns embarrassed them in snowy Cleveland a couple of weeks ago on that Thursday night. Whereas Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh wants to pay back, whereas Cleveland is looking to play big time spoiler to the Steelers' playoff hopes, especially with Pittsburgh, with a somewhat decent lead in that AFC North, with Baltimore struggles as of late.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this Pittsburgh Steelers team, they want payback for what happened on the snowy field of Cleveland Browns Stadium. And yeah, they just can't take this team lightly. Hopefully this team will learn from their mistakes. I mean, this team will come out and play much better and will handle their business. So yeah, so I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to win and get their payback, but boy howdy, Florio, as I give it to you, if the Cleveland Browns somehow find a way to beat their arch rivals again, this AFC North is going to get real interesting.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And Baltimore on bye this week, so a golden opportunity for Pittsburgh to strengthen their division lead. As Joe Posnanski noted this week, Browns quarterback Jameis Winston actually broke Norm Van Brocklin's famed 1951 record of 554 passing yards in a game last week, if you count yardage from the other team's interceptions. On his side, Winston completed 34 of 58 passes for 497 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions, returned for a combined 171 yards, 2 of which were pick sixes. And yes, Cleveland lost 41-32 to the Denver Broncos on Monday night. But it may be fascinating to see how that kind of wild, go-for-it aerial offense contrasts with the Steelers, who are 9-3 versus the Browns 3-9. And home favorites, I see 6. I just want to be sure. 6.5. They're 6.5 point home favorites is Pittsburgh. I forgot to mention 6.5 is the spread for Pittsburgh. And it is a final. Boise State has won the Mountain West Championship. They have defeated UNLV 21-7. And now we're getting a stampede on the Smurf turf.
Yeah, so, I was just going to say, it's stampede time.
Yes, sir. Steelers, who are 9-3 versus the Browns 3-9 and 6.5 point home favorites, despite throwing for just 211 yards a game. 13th lowest in the NFL. The other element here is the Hard Knocks factor. The in-season version of that show is covering the whole AFC North, and the show so far has largely focused on the Pittsburgh Steelers and their coach Mike Tomlin. But they've got to get at least some Browns coverage in at some point, and this may be an optimal chance to do so, with them taking on another AFC North team. We'll see what this game produces in terms of Hard Knocks opportunities. I apologize. It's just taking a little bit to load here. All right. Browns defensive end Myles Garrett single-handedly wrecked the Steelers' plans on offense in the team's Week 12 matchup, a Browns win. Garrett recorded 3 first-half sacks and a forced fumble, which earned him Defensive Player of the Week honors. Pittsburgh is sure to have a better plan to limit Garrett, who is looking for a bounce-back game after registering a season-low pressure rate of 3.8% in the Browns' Week 13 loss at Denver. The Steelers lead the league with 25 takeaways, including 3 in their first matchup against Cleveland. In that game, though, the Steelers managed only 7 points off those takeaways. In his 5 games as the Browns starting quarterback, Jameis Winston has thrown 10 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. The key to the Steelers avenging their Week 12 loss is capitalizing on those turnovers with more points. Cleveland has not swept the regular season series with Pittsburgh since 1988 and is looking to win 3 straight meetings for the first time since a 7-game run from 1986 to 1989. What's at stake? Well, very simple what's at stake here. The Steelers have pretty much locked up a spot in the playoffs with a 99.3% chance to make the postseason, but they have a 71% chance at winning the AFC North, with the Baltimore Ravens lurking at 29%. The FPI gives it to Pittsburgh, 59%, going with Pittsburgh, and I'm going with Pittsburgh as well. I think they'll even the score here. Another close game. I'm going to say 24-20. Pittsburgh gets by Cleveland and gets their payback for a couple of Thursday nights ago in that snowstorm in Cleveland. So 24-20, Pittsburgh wins. MF, number 4 game of the week, Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, this is going to be an interesting matchup. And remember, earlier in the year, guys, Cleveland beat Pittsburgh. It was a shocker. Nobody saw that coming. I don't think we're going to get it again. I think Pittsburgh learned their lesson the first time around. I think now they're like, all right, we let one get away. We're not letting it get away a second time around. With everything riding on the line, I think Mike Tomlin and the boys are focused. They're ready. They're going to win it. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Cleveland Browns in this rematch. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Well, he led off, so.
Oh, sorry.
So we're all set. All right. So with that being said, let's move on to our next matchup. Believe it or not, we only have 2 early games left because remember, we have a short week. We have a small docket this week because of all those buys. And unfortunately, well, for our side of the ledger, it's our 2 worst games of the week, our 2 zonk games of the week. But this next one is our number 6 game of the week. This is the penultimate before the zonk, as it will feature the Las Vegas Raiders squaring off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. Spiro Ditas, Anna Marcelletta, and Aditi Kinkabuela will be on the call for CBS. Tampa Bay opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. And the series history between these, of course, includes Super Bowl 37, oh, by the way. The Raiders lead the regular season series 7-3. The last meeting was 2020 in Las Vegas. Tampa Bay smashed the Raiders 45-20. Last meeting in Tampa was 2016, and the Raiders actually won that game 30-24 in overtime. The Buccaneers have not beaten the Raiders at home. Well, believe it or not, the Buccaneers have only beaten the Raiders at home once, and that was all the way back in 1996, a 20-17 overtime win. So, long time coming. So with that, let's get into our second to last early game of week number 14. Can Raiders rookie tight end Brock Bowers continue his record ascent against the NFL's number 30 pass defense, who have allowed 258 yards a game? Bowers, who has 27 catches and 2 touchdowns in his last 3 games combined, needs only 3 receptions against the Buccaneers to surpass Detroit's Sam Laporta's year-old record for most catches by a rookie tight end in a single season. Laporta caught 86 passes for the Detroit Lions last year. The Buccaneers are 2-0 since their bye week. A win combined with a Falcons loss would move them into sole possession of first place in the NFC South. Over the last 2 weeks, the Bucs have averaged 197 yards on the ground, 4th best in the league. But star rookie running back Bucky Irving is dealing with a hip pointer, and the Raiders are decent against the run. They're 11th in the league, giving up 114.75 yards a game. The Buccaneers had their 3rd overtime game in 2024 against Carolina last week, a 26-23 win. One more overtime matchup would set a franchise record for a single season. What's at stake? Tampa Bay and Atlanta are tied for the best record in the NFC South, though the Falcons have the head-to-head advantage. Per ESPN's FPI, the Buccaneers are still the narrow favorite in the division with a 50% chance at the division title. The Falcons are really right behind at 49%. FPI goes with Tampa Bay, 57% going with Tampa Bay. I'm going with Tampa Bay to win as well. My final score, 30-20. Tampa Bay defeats Las Vegas at Raymond James Stadium on Sunday. So not much more to say. MF, Vegas and Tampa are number 6 game of the week.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. I kind of feel like Tampa is definitely the better team in this one, even though it's going to be a close game. But I got Tampa Bay beating the Las Vegas Raiders, so Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this one as well. So, yeah, nothing more to say. Let's move on to our next game.
And it is our final early game. Final early game of week number 14. And it is our Zonk game of the week. AFC South division matchup. The Jacksonville Jaguars squaring off against the Tennessee Titans. Nissan Stadium in Nashville. The first meeting of the season for these two South Division rivals. Andrew Catalan, Tiki Barber, Jason McCourty, AJ Ross. They will have the call for that one. And Tennessee opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. In the series history between these two division rivals, Tennessee leads the all-time regular season series 34-24. Last year in Nashville, Tennessee won 28-20. Jacksonville's last win in Nashville was the year before, 2022, when they won 36-22. So not much more here. MF, our Zonk game of the week, Jacksonville, Tennessee. I'm sorry, but you got to start it off.
Yeah, it would have been more interesting if Trevor Lawrence would have been in there. But as many of you guys know, Trevor Lawrence's season is done due to a concussion and shoulder injuries that he sustained after that horrific hit last week in the game against Houston. Tennessee, I think it's just going to easily have no problems to beat Jacksonville here. So I really got nothing more to say. Florio is yours. I mean, Michael Bullock is yours. I got Tennessee winning.
As well, so it's yours, Florio.
All right. All right. With Trevor Lawrence, as MF mentioned, with Trevor Lawrence on injured reserve with a concussion/shoulder, Bullock's old friend, quarterback Mac Jones, now begins a 5-game audition for a chance to compete for a potential starting job in 2025. It's going to be tough. The Titans have the league's top-ranked pass defense, allowing 172 yards a game. Jones struggled in his 2 starts this season, leading the Jaguars to a combined 13 points and 313 yards. The Titans' run defense was gashed for 264 yards by the Washington Commanders last week. It'll be critical for Tennessee to bounce back against the Jaguars, who will be without Lawrence. Defensive coordinator Denard Wilson said, "We've got to get back to stopping the run, populate the line of scrimmage, and properly fit our gaps. We can't allow what happened last week to happen again. It's time for us to bow up and show what we really can do against the run game. The Jaguars have 9 straight road losses dating to last season, which is the longest active streak in the NFL. There is a what's at stake, but of course it's not playoff positioning, it's draft positioning. The Jaguars and Titans are both among the 7 teams with the best odds at the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft per ESPN's FPI. Jacksonville is in third, currently holding a 20.7% chance at the top selection. The FPI goes with Tennessee, 59%, going with Tennessee, and I'm going with Tennessee to win this one as well. 24-14. I got Tennessee over Jacksonville, so not much more to say on that. And now we move on to our late games, and we move on to what, for us, this is our number 2 game of the week. Big game in the major NFC West division implications in our number 2 game of the week. The Seattle Seahawks squaring off against the Arizona Cardinals. State Farm, formerly the University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. They just met a couple of weeks ago in Seattle. Seattle won that game 16-6 2 weeks ago. So, and by the way, on the call for this game for CBS, it'll be Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn. They will have the call for this one. And Arizona opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. And the series history, which includes that Seattle win over Arizona 2 weeks ago. Seattle added to their series lead. It's now 28-22 with a tie. Last year in Arizona, Seattle won 21-20. Matter of fact, the Seahawks have won 3 straight in Arizona. The Cardinals have not won at home against Seattle since 2020, a wild 37-34 overtime win. But the last 3 years, Seattle has come out of Arizona with a win. So there isn't much more to say. Michael Bullock, you started off our number as we start off the late games. 4:05 on CBS, our number 2 game of the week. Seattle, Arizona. Major implications in the NFC West for this one.
Yeah, there's a lot at stake when it comes to this in this NFC West. I mean, going into this year, everybody was thinking, oh, this is going to be the 49ers division, but with the way the 49ers have been playing, it could be anybody's for the taking, and it could be one of these teams, but I just think Arizona is the much better team in this game here. So I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals to win this one. I mean, if this was in Seattle, I'd go with the Seahawks, but I'm going with the Cardinals. It's yours for you.
Fair enough. I mean, I will be honest with you. This is, without a doubt, the toughest game to call this week. I'm not going to lie. This is the toughest. And this literally can go either way. It really can. So with that, Leonard Williams will look to continue his recent tear against the team it began against 2 weeks ago. The veteran defensive tackle recorded 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and a pass defense in the Seahawks' Week 12 win over Arizona, which he said should have earned him NFC Defensive Player of the Week honors. Williams got that after another dominant performance in Seattle's win at the New York Jets, when he recorded 2 more sacks, 3 more tackles for loss, blocked a PAT, and scored on a 92-yard pick six, the longest by a defensive lineman in NFL history. Can the Cardinals block him in Sunday's rematch? The Cardinals' red zone struggles have been magnified by losing their last 2 games. If they can improve on their 16.7% rate from Sunday and 38.5% clip over the last 3 games, they could avenge the loss to Seattle from 2 weeks ago. All week, the Cardinals have talked about execution being the main factor in their red zone struggles, and how small changes could make the difference against the Seahawks. Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray had a 15 QBR when pressured over the last 2 games after entering Week 12, with the best QBR at almost 85 in the NFL when pressured. What's at stake? Well, it's very simple. According to ESPN Analytics, the winner of this game will become the favorite to win the NFC West, while the loser will have a 20% or less chance to win the division. The FPI favors Arizona, 57%. But based on what I've seen these last few weeks, I got to go with Seattle to win this one. And if I'm wrong, hey, I'm wrong. But I'm taking a chance on Seattle. Leonard Williams has been an absolute stud the last couple of weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has another big-time game. So because of that, I'm going with Seattle to win this one and steal one in Arizona. 27-20, Seattle defeats Arizona. So we'll see what happens. So that being said, MF, if not for our game, this could have been our game right here. Seattle, Arizona, our number 2 game of the week. And this game will most certainly be well significant as to who will win the NFC West in 2024.
Yeah, division lead on the line. Man, this is tough. I don't know. I could make an argument for both teams here that could win this game. Arizona's been playing really well. I like James Conner, like what he brings to the table. Kyler Murray's done very well. You can make an argument that Marvin Harrison Jr. Has put himself at least in the conversation for offensive rookie of the year, even though I think right now my vote would be Jaden Daniels, the quarterback from the Washington Commanders, to be the offensive rookie of the year. And then obviously with Seattle, you got a good running game. Geno Smith has done really good. You got the two-headed monster, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. This is tough. I don't know. I'm gonna go with you, Anthony. I'm gonna say Seattle, but I'm not like 100% all the way in on that pick. So nothing more to say.
Fair enough. All right, boys, here we go. We now go into the 425 games on Fox. And this next one is the number 2 game of the week on the NFC side of the ledger. And it's America's game of the week. My Buffalo Bills squaring off against the Los Angeles Rams, SoFi Stadium, Inglewood, California. Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi. Buffalo opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. Buffalo leads the all-time series with the Rams 9-5, including 3 straight wins against the Rams, including the last time, 2022, MF. Remember, we had this one. This was the opening game of the 2022 season when the Buffalo Bills went into LA and smashed the Rams 31-10. The Rams last beat the Bills in 2012 in Buffalo, 15-12. That was back when they were the St. Louis Rams, of course. The last time the Rams won a home game against the Buffalo Bills, you got to go all the way back to 1983. That's right. The year MF and I were both born, 1983. The last time the Rams beat the Buffalo Bills at home, and they smashed them in that game, 41-17. So, with that being said, gentlemen, let's dive on in to America's game of the week. The Bills are coming off a famed win in the snow against the San Francisco 49ers that helped them clinch the AFC East for the 5th straight year. A key question here is if there will be any letdown for them afterwards. They still have seeding to play for, as they are currently the number 2 seed in the AFC and just 1 game back of 11-1 Kansas City. But it is possible they take their foot off the gas a bit. And that might be why they're only 3.5-point road favorites against the 6-6 Rams. For Los Angeles, running back Kyren Williams is a key figure to watch. He rushed for 104 yards and a touchdown on 15 carries in a win at the New Orleans Saints last week. He averaged almost 7 yards a carry. And Buffalo's rushing defense is not great, allowing 122 yards a game so far, which is 15th worst in the league. We'll see what leading tackler Dorian Williams, who has 98 tackles and 5 for a loss, and the Buffalo defense can do to stop the Rams' rushing attack. And bear with me for a minute. All right. Yeah, this thing just keeps acting up on me. I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, I think I got it. All right. The Bills are looking to extend a 7-game winning streak when they head out west. Another win here would tie the second longest streak in franchise history. To do that, Buffalo's run defense will be tested again facing Rams running back Kyron Williams, who has 24 straight games with at least 50 scrimmage yards, second longest active streak in the NFL, and he is also coming off a 100-yard rushing performance. The Bills' defense gave up the second most yards post-contact per rush at 3 last week in the snow. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford's 77 total QBR in his last 3 games is the second best in the NFL in that span. Second only to his opponent on Sunday, Bills quarterback Josh Allen, according to ESPN research. Stafford has 8 passing touchdowns in his last 3 games, the second most in the NFL since week 11. He has not thrown an interception in those 3 games. The Rams have back-to-back home losses, Miami in week 10 and Philadelphia in week 12. They are looking to avoid matching their longest home losing streak since Sean McVay became their coach in 2017. What's at stake? The Bills' odds to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. With a win, they improve to 53%, but they will fall to 26% with a loss, independent of other results, according to ESPN Analytics. The Rams' chances at the NFC playoffs increase to 34% with a win, but fall to 16% with a loss. But the FPI, they favor Buffalo. 63% going with the Buffalo Bills to win this game. I, too, am going with the Buffalo Bills to win this game. This is not going to be easy. This is going to be a dogfight. I believe that. This is also the classic trap game for Buffalo after that epic win in the snow last week. 34-28. It's going to be very close. But I do have my Buffalo Bills eking it out, stealing one at SoFi. And all they have to do is, take it a week at a time and a game at a time. Don't think about that game, don't think about that epic game with Detroit next week. Don't think about that. That should be the furthest thing from our mind right now. Focus on these guys, and then we'll worry about Detroit and then we'll be on to Detroit after that. You heard what J.A. said after they won the division last week. They could easily just, say, okay, we're good. No. They want that number 1 seed. And to get it, they have to go. And these next two games for Buffalo are going to be very telling. Because they got to go to the Rams, and then next week they got to go to Detroit. And then after that, it's all gravy after that. Patriots at home, Jets at home, at Patriots. Those 3 games are gravy. I'm telling you that right now. Those 3 games are going to be straight up gravy. These next 2, well, not so much. One at a time, 1 week at a time, and that's all I can say. So it's going to be very close. Classic trap game, like I said. But I do believe Buffalo will have just enough to hold off a very game Ram team in SoFi. 34-28, Buffalo wins. So not much more to say. MF, America's Game of the Week on Fox. My Buffalo Bills, the Los Angeles Rams, trap game for Buffalo. Of course, before that epic game that we're going to have next week against Detroit. So they've won the division. They've won it for the 5th year in a row. First time they've ever done that in franchise history. Can they keep it going? Because remember, you heard what I just said. Their next goal, phase 1 accomplished. They've won the division. Now, the next goal is the number 1 seed in the AFC. And in order to get that, they got to keep pace with KC. And they got to keep winning and hope that KC trips up at some point. So with that being said, MF, what a matchup here. Buffalo, the Rams, SoFi, America's Game of the Week on Fox. absolute trap game for Buffalo here, but I think they can eke it out. What says you in this huge game?
Yeah, no. I'm more confident in Buffalo than you're letting on, Anthony Florio. Honestly, after the decimation of the 49ers
In the
in
snow.
the snow
Mm-hmm.
and the way that they handled the business, and the last time the Rams had an AFC Eastern Division opponent was the Miami Dolphins in SoFi. And we all know how that went down. Miami not only won, they won pretty comfortably. Use the blueprint that Miami has. You know Buffalo and Miami are really similar in offensive styles. The only difference is that Buffalo has a little better defense than the Miami Dolphins. So I'm sorry, Anthony. I disagree with everything you just said. I don't even think this is even going to be close. They're not looking past. They're not looking past Detroit, but they surely should have no problem with the Rams. Because if Miami didn't have a problem with the Rams, they should. This isn't even going to be close. 34-17, Buffalo over the Rams. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm with Fletch here. Florio, you think this is going to be close, but I'm with him. I don't think this is going to be close at all. I think this is going to be an absolute blowout because this Buffalo Bills team is so focused right now on. I mean, yes, I know they're not they shouldn't look past the Lions, but look, I mean, the Rams aren't that. They're good, but not great. And you know what? I'll even take it a step further. Fletch, you said 34-17, right? I'll do you one better. How about 41-17? Buffalo squashes the Rams and literally sends a message to everyone going into the big game against Detroit that if you think we're going to lay down to the Detroit Lions, absolutely not. And Florio, can you imagine somehow next week they do? I mean, heading into that matchup with Detroit, they do beat Detroit and end that long win streak.
It would be massive, but the thing is that
You
that's
mentioned it
where I
earlier,
think.
Matt. You mentioned it earlier. Buffalo was one of those top 4 teams you were
Oh
watching.
no, I'm not trying to say that.
No. Hold on. The only problem I have with Detroit.
You might have had.
I thought he was going to say something.
I think you might have had to step away for a minute. So, but earlier in the show,
but could you imagine, Florio, if they do win that next week against Detroit?
Oh my God! Whew.
I think it'll send a message not just to the AFC but to the entire NFL that no, Detroit's not the real deal. We're the real deal.
What a story it would be.
And also to send a message to all the haters out there who said all going into the season that Buffalo's going to take a step back. They're not going to be as good as they've been in years past.
That's right.
And they basically are going to give the middle finger to everybody in the NFL. Say, oh yeah, you think we're going to take a step back? Watch us.
Yeah, and look what they've done. I mean, no Stephon Diggs, lost him to Houston. They lost Gabe Davis to
that's what they said. Oh, no Stephon Diggs, no Gabe Davis.
No Jordan Poyer. Jordan Poyer going to the Dolphins. Yeah, I bet he's regretting that right now. Sorry, MF, but it's true. It's true. So he's probably saying,
And
Oh
I'll
God, I
say
made a
this
mistake.
also.
I should have stayed in
Should
Buffalo.
Buffalo beat Detroit, I'm going to go on the record of saying this, and I don't give a damn what anybody says. And Florio, you're going to love what I'm about to say.
If they beat Detroit, what happens?
I'm going to say they are going to be the favorites to come out of the AFC and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
And earlier in the show, and before you came in, Bullock, MF gave us his top 4 teams to watch for in the Super Bowl in no particular order. He had Buffalo, he had Detroit, he had Kansas City, and he had Philadelphia. So MF, how do you feel about Buffalo right now?
I love their chances. The problem is I don't see them beating Detroit next week, though. That's the problem, because you got a two-headed monster in the running game. You got Sam Laporta, who's a really good tight end.
And the way Jared Goff is playing.
Jared Goff has been playing great, and you got Dan Campbell, who's right now, in my opinion, the coach of the year in the NFL.
And think about this, Fletch. This man was once the interim coach of your team.
You think I don't remember that, Bullock?
And I'm sure you must have been like, wait a minute, where was this
in Miami
with your team?
Well, the thing was that the team wasn't. It was a rebuild. It wasn't constructed in the way that we wanted it to be constructed. So at the time, we didn't have the horses. So I mean, what do you want me to say there?
No, not exactly much, but
I mean, that's just like what are you looking for on that statement, Bullet? Like, yes, a lot of the Dolphin fans were hoping that we would have had him as a head coach. Obviously, they decided to go in a different direction, and at the end of the day, we got what we got. But the thing was that at the time, he was a young coach, we didn't know what we were going to get. So, I mean, there's no argument here. And besides, at the time, the culture and everything, that's not what Miami Dolphin football was all about. And Dan Campbell, it was the perfect marriage when he went to Detroit. I mean, he's that kind of a guy, blue collar, down nose in the grindstone type head coach that is willing that he's going to take the next step. That's what this guy is meant for. It's like when Belichick landed in New England. Did anybody want Belichick in New England at first? Hell freaking no. They didn't want him because of the fact that he basically burned the New York Jets. If everybody remembers that. He was supposed to be the New York Jets head coach, and then 24 hours later, he dumps the Jets to go to the Patriots. And a lot of the New England fans were a little apprehensive at first before Belichick did what he did. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to see. And now we see what's been happening now. So, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, props to what they did, but, certain things were in certain situations. So, I don't know. So, like I said, the top 4 is definitely there. To say that Buffalo is the favorite to come out of the AFC, okay, I'll give you that. But
they have to be Kansas City first.
But the other narrative that I'm hearing, and I know this is unfair, but it needs to be said. Who has Buffalo really beaten in their run, other than Kansas City? So take Kansas City out of it. But who has Buffalo truly beaten this season? We know their loss was against Baltimore, and it wasn't even close.
And then Houston, they literally beat themselves against Houston. They
lost
beat Houston that game.
and then again, and Houston, and now we know Houston is a shell of what they would look like earlier in the year. Houston is not as good as a lot of people were advertising them as earlier in the year. So
the only other good team outside of Kansas City they've beaten was the road win at Seattle.
There you go. So
other than that, it's been they've either beaten dud teams like they're supposed to, or middle of the road average teams.
Which they're supposed to handle their business on that too. So I'm not ready to.
These next two games are going to be very telling of if Buffalo is for real.
No. I'm not even counting the Rams game. Nope. Sorry. Because they got exposed by Miami. I already told you that, Florio. I'm not even believing that. That's a middle of the road team. You gotta handle your business and win that game. The litmus test is next week against Detroit. End of discussion on that.
And then it's all gravy after that. So, well, we shall see what happens. And but yes, I am optimistic. So we shall see what happens. That game next week is going to be something else. So, all right. So with that being said, let's move on to the other 425 game on Fox. The Chicago Bears squaring off against the San Francisco 49ers at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. And this game also on Fox, of course. And on that call will be, I believe it's Kenny Albert's crew working this one. Let's see. Yeah, Kenny Albert. It's Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Megan O'Leary. They will be on the call for that one. San Francisco opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. Chicago, though, leads the regular season series, not by much. It's only 33-32 with one tie. And the one tie was in 1966 in Chicago, 30-30. 2 years ago, 2022 in Chicago, Bears won 19-10. Last meeting in San Francisco was 2018, and believe it or not, Chicago won that game, 14-9. The 49ers have not beaten the Bears at home since 2012, believe it or not, and that was a 32-7 final. MF, Chicago, San Francisco. Oh, what a mess both of these teams are. Oh, my God. San Francisco, well, their season just
Injury bug.
Christian McCaffrey in the snow in Buffalo. He's done for the year. And they're a mess right now. But the Chicago Bears, even bigger mess after that. After single-handedly the absolute worst clock management of all time on Thanksgiving at Detroit, a game they should have won. I will remind you that. They should have won that game.
I agree.
Coach Matt Eberflus, with the IQ of a damn turnip, cost him that game.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, this is. I want to say the Niners regardless because I still believe they have a better offense, better defense, and they're at home. Like you said, Chicago is just a complete and utter mess. For San Fran, this has not been the season they were hoping for. They had so much higher expectations, but the injuries and that's what when you have a great team and the injury bug hits you and it hurts so bad. Like the only other team that I think that's been just a snake bit at the Niners, and I'll openly admit this, and I think you guys will agree, the Miami Dolphins. The injuries have really cost, Miami the season. The injuries have really cost San Francisco the season. San Fran will win. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, someone's got to give in this one, Bullock.
Yeah, I got to go with the Niners here. I just think they have the better offense, the better defense. I mean, yes, no Christian McCaffrey done for the season, but the Bears are just a bigger mess. So I'm going to go with the Niners to win this one. So I think Sunday Night Football is next, Florio.
Well, I got to give my thoughts.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's yours.
Yep. Yeah. When it comes to this one, Chicago looks to snap a 6-game losing streak, tied for the Bears' third longest in a season since 2000, in Thomas Brown's first game as interim head coach after Matt Eberflus was fired on November 29th, and rightfully so, after the worst clock management you will ever see in an NFL game, or any football game for that matter. Thomas Brown will move from the coach's booth to the sideline, where he will continue to call offensive plays. Quarterback Caleb Williams has made significant strides with Brown as his play caller, having thrown 232 consecutive passes without an interception, the longest streak by a rookie in NFL history. Williams is seeking his third straight game with multiple passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. The banged-up 49ers will be counting on rookie running back Isaac Guerendo to pick up the slack for injured backs Christian McCaffrey with a knee and Jordan Mason with an ankle. Guerendo has flashed in small doses, averaging 5.9 yards on 42 attempts, fourth best mark of any running back with at least 40 carries. The Bears are yielding 4.9 yards a carry, 29th in the NFL, and have given up 57 rushes of 10-plus yards, tied for 6th most, which means there should be some big play opportunities for Guerendo in his first NFL start. The Bears are the first team since turnovers were first tracked in 1933 to lose 6 straight without committing multiple turnovers in any of those games. What's at stake? Well, the 49ers enter with only an 8% chance to make the playoffs per ESPN Analytics. That will slightly increase to 12% with a win, but drop all the way down to 2% with a loss. The FPI still goes with San Francisco, though. 62% going with San Francisco. I'm going with San Francisco. I'm going to say 23-20. San Francisco defeats Chicago. So with all that being said, we move on now, guys. Sunday Night Football on NBC, 8:20. And gentlemen, it is our game of the week. The game of the week on our side of the ledger. Huge game in the AFC West. The Los Angeles Chargers squaring off against the Kansas City Chiefs. Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark. And Kansas City opening up as only a 4-point favorite. 4-point spread for Kansas City. And second meeting between these two, they met in week number 4 at SoFi, and Kansas City won that game, ugly game, 17-10. Kansas City adds to their regular season series lead. It's now 70-57 with a tie. Make it 6 straight wins for the Chiefs against the Chargers. Last year in LA, the Chiefs won a very ugly game in LA. Well, I should say, I was thinking about the game in LA. I'm sorry. This is Kansas City now. Chiefs won last year, 31-17. The Chargers' last win in Kansas City was 2021. They won that game by a score of 30-24. So I believe Michael Bullock starts this one off. So Michael Bullock, our game of the week, Sunday Night Football on NBC, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And for the Chiefs, it's very simple. Win, and they are AFC West Division champs for a 9th straight year.
But I'll tell you this, Florio. I mean, some of these victories, the last few ones they've been close. I mean, there were times, we thought that Kansas City was going to lose. I mean, especially to Carolina. I mean, I don't know. It's just, yes. I should go with Kansas City to win. Because they are the favorite, but somehow, some way, these games have been close, especially against teams they should be able to beat. And now you're going up against a team in the Chargers that is led by Jim Harbaugh. Unless Kansas City somehow wakes up, I can't believe I'm about to do this. If I'm the only one who goes with this, I don't care. I'm going to go with the LA Chargers to win this, because at some point, sometime, Kansas City in these close games, it's going to come back to bite them. They've been lucky against some of the teams they've beaten. Well, with the teams that they should have beaten by more. But I think this is finally going to come back to bite them. I may be lone wolfing this one, but I don't care. Chargers win this one. It's yours, Florio.
Whoa, okay. Bold, that, my friends, is what we call a bold prediction. So,
Well, come on, Florio.
okay.
I mean, have you seen the way
Oh, you're
Kansas
right.
City's played? Yes, they won, but not by the way we're
Yeah.
used to seeing them.
Yeah, especially the last 2 weeks. I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
they haven't really been the
especially
same since
against
Buffalo.
Carolina.
They haven't been the
team-
same since Buffalo took care of them.
And
So,
I'm sorry. I mean, I just think they've been lucky to win the last 2 weeks, and I think this is where I think it's finally going to come back to bite them.
Last week, especially, they were lucky. So, but anyways, Jim Harbaugh's Chargers are now 8-4 on the year, following last week's narrow win at Atlanta, and they're second in the AFC West behind the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chargers are currently the number 5 seed in the AFC, but their playoff spot is far from secure, so more wins are needed. But this is a tough matchup for them. They're only. Hold on, let me see. I just want to make sure I have the right number here. Yeah, that was correct. Okay. They're only 4-point road underdogs, but Kansas City just keeps finding ways to win, including a 19-17 win against the Las Vegas Raiders on Black Friday. Despite that game against the Raiders being low scoring, it was actually one of quarterback Patrick Mahomes' highest yardage totals this year. He threw for 306 yards, just his second 300-yard game of the season. He put up 331 against New Orleans on October 7 and tossed a touchdown without an interception. However, his 56.5% completion mark was a season low. We'll see how he does against the Charger defense that's allowed 206 passing yards a game this year, which is 10th best in the league. Okay. The Chargers are 3-18 against the Chiefs since 2014, including 6 straight losses. Quarterback Justin Herbert is 2-7 against the Chiefs in his career. The games typically come down to how well the Chargers' offensive line protects Herbert. In the 2 wins, the Chiefs pressured Herbert on 26% of his dropbacks, while in losses, he was pressured on 36% of his dropbacks. The Chiefs had one of their better games of the season defensively against the Chargers in Week 4, when they held Herbert and the Los Angeles offense to only 10 points and 220 total yards. But can they repeat that kind of performance? The Chiefs have been a soft touch on defense for many of their recent opponents. They had 2 touchdown leads over the Carolina Panthers 2 weeks ago and the Las Vegas Raiders last week, and still had to scramble at the end for the win. The Chiefs have won 14 consecutive games by 1 score or less, longest streak in NFL history. What's at stake? Very simple. The Chiefs can clinch their 9th straight AFC West division title with a win. And per ESPN Analytics, their odds to earn the number 1 seed increased to 61% with a win, but would drop to 33% with a loss. The FPI still goes with Kansas City, of course, 62% going with Kansas City. And I give Bullock credit for that bold pick. I really do. And I'm inclined to agree with him. But this is the Chiefs. They're at home. And the last couple of weeks, they have found ways to win. I do believe when it comes to their remaining schedule, there is one team that I see that I believe can trip them up. I just don't think it's the Chargers. The Chargers will give them hell. They will absolutely give them hell. But because of these Chiefs, what has been their MO? They always find a way to win. Bullock, you more than anybody should know this. We said that. How many times did we say this during your Patriots dynasty, for goodness sakes? And if they can do it, certainly these guys can as well. So as a Buffalo fan, I'm rooting against them, of course, because that number 1 seed, do you have any idea how important that number 1 seed is? Home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs and not having to play a road game and that bye on top of it. Massive. Do you have any idea how huge that would be for Buffalo if they get it? But I don't know. I'm rooting for it, but I don't know. I got to go with the Chiefs, though. But would I be surprised if the Chargers stole one? No. The Chargers know how to win in KC in prime time. They did in 2018, a game MF and I will never forget, that Thursday night game. We'll never forget that game as long as we live. One of our all-time favorite games. But they'll come. I think they're going to come up just a little bit short. I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow pull it out again. So I'm going with Kansas City to win. Close game, of course. 30-28. I'm going with Kansas City to win. But if the Chargers were to steal it, I certainly wouldn't be surprised. But we'll see. But I will give Bullock major credit for that bold pick. Absolutely. So it's a respectful disagreement, but I am inclined to agree with him, though. So very tough. But nonetheless, Kansas City wins 30-28. So with that being said, MF, our game of the week, Chargers and the Chiefs, Arrowhead. Chiefs, a win. They win the division for the 9th straight year. The Chargers looking to play spoiler. They could. You never know, but we'll see. So here we go. Sunday Night Football, our game of the week. Our first Sunday night game this season. Hard to believe, but it's true. So MF, here we go. Chargers, Chiefs, our game of the week. The Phil Sims to my Jim Nance, as always. Do that thing I like, if you will. Hello, friends.
Yeah, no, this is going to be one of those games where this is going to be wild. I don't even, and I get where everybody's talking about, oh, but Kansas City's been very fortunate, everything else. Yes, I get it. But they're still the Kansas City Chiefs. They know, that's the thing. Everybody is saying it. They're like the New England Patriots. They, just when you think they're down and out, some way, somehow, they figure it out. They win those games. Now, Patriot fans understand why the league hated you guys for 20 fucking years. Because of shit like this. So, now the Patriot fans are like, oh. So that's why they hated us all those years. Because now you see another team that's doing the same goddamn thing as you guys were doing when you guys were having your dynasty run. And that's now you get it. Now you understand. Now you know why there was so much venom and there's so much animosity for the Patriots for all those years. And it's funny because everybody's like, well, yeah, but they're not going to match the Patriots thing. Are you kidding me? Look at what Kansas City's been doing right now, up to this point. They won back-to-back Super Bowls, and they could be on their way to their third consecutive. And how many? I think they won 2 in a row, and 3 out of the last 4, Anthony? Something like that?
3 of their last 5. 3 of the last 5.
3 out of the last 5. And now they could be 4 and 6. I'm sorry. That's even better than what the Patriots have done in their 6 championships in 20 years. So, I mean, I don't even know what to even say right now. But if there's one team that has the kryptonite, believe it or not, in their division opponent, it is the Chargers. Even before Harbaugh came along, the Chargers was always giving KC fits. So, I mean, possible, and I get it, but until somebody beats Kansas City and actually beat them like Buffalo did, I'm not going to discount it. And especially at home, that the Chiefs are going to be, that's a hard sell. That's a hard thing for me to buy, that the Chargers are going to beat them. I'd love to see it, but I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, yes, Kansas City is not the team that they were. They're not the team that they used to be. I don't know. We'll see. KC wins, but I'm not sold. So, Florio, it's yours.
All right. And with that, we move on to our final game of the night. Monday Night Football on ESPN, 8:15 on ESPN, also simulcast on ABC. Of course, we got the Manning cast on ESPN2 with the Mannings and Bill Belichick, of course. And this is our number 3 game of the week. And it's also going to be a special edition of Monday Night Football, The Simpsons Fun Day Football, for all you Simpson fans out there. Yeah, there's a Simpson fan right there. Good old MF Michael Fletcher. So,
and that's going to be on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. And I actually found out it's going to be Drew Carter and Booger McFarlane that's going to be doing that particular game. So if you remembered when they did the Andy Toy Room, when they did I think it was the Atlanta Falcons versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think it was a couple of years ago. This time around, it's going to be in a 3D mock-up of Springfield where Bart Simpson and the Cincinnati Bengals goes up against Homer Simpson and the Dallas Cowboys.
Go!
Go indeed. It is our number 3 game of the week. As MF mentioned, the Cincinnati Bengals squaring off against the Dallas Cowboys, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Jerry World. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, they will have it. And Cincinnati opening up as a 5.5-point favorite. Dallas leads the all-time series by a count of 10-4. And as a matter of fact, the Cowboys have won 5 straight meetings against Cincinnati, including the last one, 2022 in Dallas. Dallas won 20-17. The Bengals last beat the Cowboys all the way back in 2004, and they smashed them 26-3 in Cincinnati. The Bengals have only won in Dallas once, and that was their Super Bowl year of 1988 when they went into the old Texas Stadium and beat the Cowboys 38-24. So with that, let's get into our final game of the night. The 4-8 Bengals against the 5-7 Cowboys would usually sound pretty rough for a primetime game. And this one likely could have been flexed if not for that Simpsons altcast. A lot of the time over the last few months was spent creating animations, voiceovers, and other things for that broadcast based on this matchup. But that altcast is going to be fascinating, and it may get a lot of people to tune in. It's also worth noting that while these teams are not good by their records, they've both proven to be pretty entertaining at times. That's particularly true with Cincinnati and quarterback Joe Burrow, who leads the league with 3,337 passing yards and has been efficient along the way, recording 30 touchdown passes, only 5 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 68. There may be a very interesting discussion around how much, if any, MVP consideration he gets. In recent years, that award has usually gone to a top statistical performer on a good team, but he only meets half of those criteria. Meanwhile, Dallas quarterback Cooper Rush, filling in for the injured Dak Prescott, was not great in last week's incredibly watched, terrible 27-20 win over the struggling New York Giants, throwing for only 195 yards with a touchdown and a completion percentage of only 58. We'll see if he and the Cowboys, 5.5-point home underdogs, can do better here. But hey, if they can't, there will still be the Simpsons altcast to laugh at. A ground attack could be the best approach for the Bengals against the Cowboys. Over the last 4 games, Dallas has been one of the worst teams in allowed yards per carry, 5.4, 31st, while being great at defending the pass, tied for second with 5 interceptions and tied for first with 16 sacks. Leaning on running back Chase Brown could relieve the pressure on the passing game and help Cincinnati snap a 3-game losing streak. Dallas will be looking for the 3-game winning streak of the season with a win Monday night to keep their faint playoff hopes alive. The Cowboys are 7-1 all-time at home against Cincinnati, their best home record against any opponent in franchise history. They have won 5 straight overall against Cincinnati, including 2 years ago when the aforementioned Cooper Rush led a final-minute drive to beat Joe Burrow. But this time, Burrow is the NFL's leading passer and directs the 6th highest scoring offense at almost 27 points a game. Although not as impressive as quarterbacks Dak Prescott and Roger Staubach, who won 9 of their first 10 starts with the Cowboys, Rush's 7-3 record. This stat is nutty, guys. This stat is absolutely nutty. Cooper Rush's 7-3 record is better than in a Cowboy quarterback's first 10 starts than the likes of, listen to this, Troy Aikman, who was 0-10 in his first 10 starts, and Tony Romo, who was 6-4 in his first 10 starts. Nutty. What's at stake? Well, the Bengals hold only a 2% chance to make the playoffs. The Cowboys, 1%. That's it. The FPI goes with Cincinnati, 66%. And I am going with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game. My final score, I'm going to go 35-26. Cincinnati defeats Dallas on Monday night. So not much more to say. MF, Cincinnati and Dallas, our number 3 game of the week, the Simpson Allcast. Your thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, I'm in total agreement with what you said. I believe Cincinnati is going to win the game as well. Really not much more to add there. So, it's all yours, Michael Bark.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this one as well. So, there's really nothing more to say except let's put a ball on this night, Florio.
All right, and that will indeed put the bow on this Week 14 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. We're going to be back with you again tomorrow night. I believe, what time I'm at? 10:30 tomorrow for the Cerebral Smack Talk?
Yes, 10:30.
Okay. 10:30 tomorrow night. It will be the Cerebral Smack Talk, hosted by good old MF Michael Fletcher on Braves Fan 95. Friday night SmackDown. Oh, we got some things to say about that show. Oh, boy, do we have some things to say. But on top of that, we're also going to recap the NXT deadline that will be going down tomorrow night on Peacock. So that's tomorrow night. And then Monday night, we do it all again, Ridiculously Raw, right back here on the Tone 25, 10:30 Monday night. Monday Night Raw. And I will actually have a small correction on the Tony's take. It's going to be another special Tony's take because, believe it or not, there's going to be another TNA Plus special next week. Very quick, I know. TNA Final Resolution. They'll be going down on the TNA Plus app. I will give you a preview of that in a special Tony's take on Monday night. And I don't know what night we're going to have it. If we're going to have a Madness show, because I don't know if we want to do a preview of Saturday night's main event. I don't know if we're going to have to talk about that behind the scenes. That will it will be Monday night, of course, and then next Friday night, of course, it will be NFL Friday. We will have a recap of the Thursday night football game between the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. Notable games on the docket for next week's show. The Miami Dolphins squaring off against the Houston Texans. Don't really see much of anything else. The Indianapolis Colts against the Denver Broncos. And we have the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. But we've got 2 huge main event games next week. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles, America's Game of the Week on Fox. But the game of the week, the game of the year, possible Super Bowl preview, the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. Don't get no bigger than that. That's a main event anywhere in the country. So that is going to be, I cannot wait to talk about that game next week. So that's it. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, Brace Fan 95, this is Anthony Florio here for good old MF Michael Fletcher, for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, of course, the one and only first lady of our shows, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune Forest style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Saturday. And until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching the Week 14 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody, bye.